The New York v. Trump trial resumes today as prosecutors prepare for more key witnesses, including Michael Cohen. Jurors heard from former Trump aide Hope Hicks on Friday, who detailed what happened before and after Trump's Access Hollywood tape was released to the public. In her testimony, Hicks described Trump's interactions with his wife Melania, saying, quote, "President Trump really values Mrs. Trump's opinion. I don't think he wanted anyone in his family to be hurt or embarrassed by anything happening in the campaign." Katie Cherkasky is a former federal prosecutor and a constitutional law attorney, and she joins me now. Katie, great to have you. Did calling Hope Hicks as a witness really backfire on the prosecution? Because in so many parts of her testimony, she established that any potential usage of a catch and kill or stifling a story or anything was really done to protect the family more than anything.
Well, I agree with you. I think that Hope Hicks' testimony was critical for Donald Trump and the defense. And in fact, it actually led to the conclusion that Donald Trump does not need to take the stand, because she offered information that his motivation in essentially killing this Stormy Daniels story was because he did not want his family to find out, particularly his wife. And that establishes a prior consistent statement before he ever knew about any potential criminal charges, long before any of this was ever a glimmer in Alvin Bragg's eye. So to that extent that he does not want to take the stand because there is a risk to him doing so, this testimony was critical for the defense. It was pretty devastating for the prosecution.
Do you have a sense as to, on a percentage basis, if there are a bunch of reasons that one might want to kill a story, let's say, how much of it needs to be potentially campaign related for any of these campaign finance violations to even be triggered? In a general sense, I'm not saying any of that applies even here, but in general, is it 50%? Is it just 10%? Like, what's the percentage?
Well, it's an interesting kind of analysis. So obviously here, this wasn't a question about whether he used campaign funds. Obviously he didn't. This was personal funds of Michael Cohen. It was the question of whether it was a campaign expense that should have otherwise been reported as such. And the answer really lies in the fact that the FEC took no action on this. The feds took no action on this as a campaign finance violation. The idea of what the motivation is for the payment and whether it would have been something that you pay for irrespective of the campaign is essentially the standard that's used. But the jury hasn't actually been presented the alternate theory. We're just kind of supposing that it's some sort of campaign finance violation. That's the insinuation the prosecution has made. But again, they have to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. So the idea that Hope Hicks has said that the motivation was to protect the family, that should be enough to quash that theory.
I like what you said. It's kind of like if the FEC, based upon their magic formula that they know, says there's no campaign finance violation, that's a pretty good indicator. Here's how fellow lawyer and Trump's former DNI, John Ratcliffe, sees it all. Take a listen.
It's been a train wreck for the prosecution. Look, every witness that they've called so far has been a witness intending to harm Donald Trump, and in fact, in every instance, they have at least in part helped Donald Trump with this case. And every witness that the state has called so far has also said that the state's most important witness, Michael Cohen, can't be believed, that he is essentially a pathological liar.
To John's point, regardless of whatever Cohen testifies on the stand, how will he have any credibility with the jury, considering almost every single witness that went on a stand has basically destroyed him, said he's a bad guy, and ruined his credibility to the jury?
His credibility is completely destroyed. There's no question about that. Now, in terms of how much weight is given to his testimony, that's really up to the jury, and whether the prosecution can corroborate anything that he says with external evidence that does not rely solely upon his memory. But up to this point, 2 weeks into trial, they haven't done anything of the sort. So certainly, I think that it's just going to be an annihilation on cross-examination for him.
I mean, maybe the prosecution has something up their sleeve with regard to Cohen, but so far, it's not apparent to any of us who are looking at this for a living. Katie Cherkasky, thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.